In the summer of 1943 in Camp Crossville, Tennessee, a bubbling brown liquid in a bottle caught the attention of the German community. He had never seen anything like it before. After 2 years fighting in MI, surviving primarily on dry biscuits and SAS coffee, this sweet, carbonated drink called Coca-Cola became a symbol of the impossible becoming reality. It cost only 5 cents at the camp cafeteria, roughly the same amount that American children typically spent from their pocket money. That summer, approximately 371,680 German women would face a reality that was the complete opposite of what the National Liberation Front had taught them about the weakness of the American people. They discovered a country where ice cream was the norm, soft drinks were an integral part of daily life, and candy bars were so common that even the forest rangers handed them out. These simple dishes, which most German children have never tasted, would dismantle fascist theories more effectively than any propaganda campaign. Calculations of abundance being measured by the sugar and carbonation in chocolate and ice cream reveal that America's industrial production capabilities mean that scarcity in Germany is no longer a noble sacrifice, but an unnecessary hardship. What initially starts as mere surprise at the deliciousness of American food will then transform into a complete psychological shift. The surrender of African forces in Tunisia in May 1943 handed over approximately 250 German and Italian airmen to the Allies. These seasoned warriors, who had previously repelled the British back to Egypt under Rammer's leadership, expected to be treated brutally when they became cabinet makers. Nazi propaganda prepared them for the brutality and starvation inflicted by the Americans. But just hours after surrendering, they encountered rations provided by the American army. These rations, which American soldiers often complained about, actually contained valuable items: biscuits, processed cheese, candy, fruit bars, instant coffee, sugar cubes, and cigarettes. The German soldiers, who had survived on meager rations for months, viewed these emergency meals as a feast. According to military records, at reception camps in North Africa, the U.S. military served bread with syrup, fresh eggs, and milk. These items had disappeared from the German army's rations many years ago. Providing superior food supplies to the enemy began immediately, although the psychological impact of this was only fully understood later. One officer testified before the International Red Cross Committee that we expected to starve as prisoners of war. But instead, the Americans fed us better than our own army. The Americans' confusion about resources was the starting point for our educational process. The Liberty ships carrying prisoners of war across the Atlantic in the summer of 1943 gave them a taste of America's riches. These ships are being produced at an unprecedented rate, with one completed in 42 hours at peak production, carrying up to 30,000 nuclear reactors per month to the United States. Naval records show that the rations for prisoners on these ships were even better than or equal to the crew's rations, approximately 3,500 calories per day, including fresh bread, meat, vegetables, and coffee with sugar and milk. The refrigeration systems, standard on American ships, kept food fresh throughout the long journey. In particular, records show that ice cream was served many times during the sea voyages. The logbook of the Durette at General M.B. Stewart from July 1943 records the serving of ice cream to the refrigerator on the 4th of date, using the ship's ice cream machine, which could produce 10 gallons at a time. For those who had never seen ice cream before the war, this cold dessert in the middle of the ocean was hard to believe. When the ships docked at places like Northford and Newt News, the German prisoners of war encountered an America that Nazi propaganda had portrayed as impossible. The Norfolk Naval Base, spanning 4,300 acres with extensive coastal facilities, handles more cargo daily than all of Germany's major ports handle in a week. At the port's exchange shops, the prisoners saw shelves laden with candy bars from major manufacturers such as Hershey, Mars, and Nestle. Data from military procurement records from 1943 shows that these stores had a full range of candy bars at a standard price of 5 cents for most bars. Prices are the same as throughout the United States. Their journey further inland by train continued to provide them with valuable lessons. Unlike the cattle wagons used for transporting Europe, German prisoners of war traveled in passenger wagons with dining cars that served full meals. Menus recorded from July 1943 show fried chicken, vegetables, pastries, and coffee. They realized that this wasn't special treatment, but rather standard American rail service. The prison system built throughout the United States housed prisoners in conditions that exceeded even the requirements of the Geneva Conventions. Camp Crossville, Tennessee, is large in scale and has electric lighting, hot water, flush toilets, and heated bark. But the biggest impact on them came from the trading posts at the camp. According to military command records, these stores offered a variety of soft drinks such as Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, Oxy Cola, along with various candies and snacks, and, if possible, cigarettes, fresh fruit, snacks, and beer with an alcohol content of 2%. The monk earned 80 cents a day for the work, which was later increased to $1. A candy bar costs 5 cents, and Coca-Cola is about the same price. With a single workday, they can buy 16 different items that would be unimaginable in Germany. In places where these products are available, one would need special connections to purchase them. Coca-Cola has become a symbol of American industrial democracy. Coca-Cola's wartime production achieved impressive figures. Company documents show that in 1943 alone, they produced as many as 5 billion bottles. The contract with the military ensured that every American soldier around the world could buy Coca-Cola for 5 centimeters. This requires an unprecedented logistics system. The German prisoners discovered that this previously virtually unknown beverage was very popular in America. Each prison received supplies on a regular basis. Jobs at the camps saw vending machines and refrigerators everywhere, from gas stations and factories to schools. Americans of all ages and backgrounds drink Coca-Cola very freely, often throwing away unfinished bottles without a second thought. The sheer abundance of flavors surprised even the prisoners with knowledge and technical skills. Coca-Cola tastes the same whether you drink it in Maine or Texas, a quality control achievement surpassing anything the beverage industry has ever accomplished. Kodak syrup, manufactured in Atlanta and distributed to bottling plants nationwide, demonstrated industrial coordination that challenged Nazi assumptions about chaos in America. Historical records from the Coca-Cola Company archives confirm that many prisons received between 200 and 300 cases weekly, each containing 24 bottles. In Texas alone, approximately 7,000 bottles of Coca-Cola were consumed per week during the summer of 1943. This was difficult to imagine for German prisoners of war, as they had not seen it before the war broke out. However, military records confirm that ice cream was regularly served at camps with adequately functioning refrigeration systems during the summer. The military considered ice cream an essential element for morale, so important that they built specialized ships to transport ice cream for the Pacific Fleet. At the Shelby, Mississippi camp, the May 4, 1943 anniversary celebration featured ice cream made right on site. The prisoners watched with eager anticipation as the hand-cranked ice cream makers churned out gallons of ice cream from ice, salt, cream, sugar, and flavoring. The use of limited resources like ice in July and cream and sugar for relaxation reveals priorities that the Germans cannot understand. By 1944, many camps had electric ice cream makers. The variety of flavors, such as soy, vanilla, strawberry, and walnut butter, even surpassed what German ice cream parlors offered before the war. Prisoners can purchase ice cream bars for 10 centimeters, ice cream sandwiches for the same price, or cups of ice cream in various flavors. Military procurement records show that large camps ordered between 50 and 100 gallons of ice cream per week during the summer months. This frequency may vary depending on location and purchase, but prisoners regularly enjoyed this luxury that had disappeared from life in Germany. Sugar consumption in American farms had a profound impact. In Germany, the distribution channels are very strict. Ordinary citizens only receive 280 grams per month when it is available. Meanwhile, in American prisons, sugar is left in bassoons on the dining tables for everyone to use without limit. From the supply department's records from 1943 to 1945, it can be seen that the camps regularly received bags of refined sugar weighing 100 pence each week. The bakeries on the camp used sugar extensively, producing a wide variety of cakes, cookies, and pastries that regularly appeared on the menu. The meals served in cafeterias also readily add sugar to coffee, tea, cereals, and even white drinks. A prime example from the Aliceville camp in Alabama illustrates this contrast. In August 1943, the humid weather caused hundreds of poo of sugar to harden, making it difficult to use. Instead of steaming and reheating as the Germans typically do, the kitchen staff decided to discard it and request a replacement. Reportel felt sorry for the German kitchen staff working there at the time because of this waste. The American habit of consuming chocolate reflects the richness of democratic culture. Major manufacturers like Hershey, Mars, and Nestle continued to produce millions of chocolate bars each month, despite the restrictions imposed during the war. The military alone purchased 380 million pounds of chocolate products throughout the war years. The Red Cross's monthly packages for prisoners included chocolate bars alongside other treats. Red Cross documents show that standard packages contained chocolate or candy, 2 packets of instant coffee, processed cheese, biscuits, canned meat, cigarettes, and soap. These packages supplement the daily rations, providing luxuries that Germans do not receive in their basic meals. Christmas in 1943 brought unexpected generosity from the American people. Religious groups, social organizations, and individuals sent gift packages to German prisoners of war. The U.S. Committee for the Service of the U.S. distributed 50,000 Christmas packages to war veterans' prisons. These gift packages often contain homemade cookies, candy, toiletries, games, books, cigarettes, and writing supplies. Local communities near prisons also frequently provide additional support. In Tunkalla, Oklahoma, people brought homemade food to the German cooks at the Tunkalla camp. In Texas, religious groups also bring Christmas cookies and candy to the camp. These acts of charity towards the enemy fundamentally challenge the ideology of German evolution. Even Americans with family members fighting against Germany showed compassion for German prisoners, demonstrating that strength can be shown through kindness rather than revenge. As labor shortages worsened, German prisoners took on more work outside of prisons, witnessing the realities of American food production. By 1944, approximately 100,000 prisoners were working in agriculture and food processing, having the opportunity to experience firsthand the riches of America. In the cherry orchards of Michigan, prisoners picked cherry tobacco to use as an ingredient in maraschino, a fruit topping for sundae ice cream. They were amazed by the enormous quantity of fruit that was harvested. A single orchard can produce tons of fruit just for decoration. At food processing plants, prisoners observed that quality control procedures discarded perfectly edible food due to minor defects. DeMonte's records from 1944 show that about 15% of the fruit was discarded due to size abnormalities or minor defect marks. They are usually sold as animal feed. The sugar beet processing techniques in Colorado and Nebraska demonstrate a level of agricultural mechanization far exceeding what Germany has been able to achieve. A single farm can produce more sugar beets than vast areas of Germany combined. The prisoners realized that American sugar production from both sugarcane and sugar beets reached approximately 7 million tons per year, which explained the abundance they witnessed. German workers employed near schools saw the first organized lunch programs. Children receive a warm meal containing milk, protein, and vegetables. The National Lunch Act would later formalize this in 1946, but similar programs had been in operation throughout the war. The Special Milk Program made a strong impression on German observers. Many schools provide fresh milk for children every day. The system of supplying milk daily to thousands of schools demonstrates an organizational capability that Germany could not achieve in military supply. Some school cafeterias also sell ice cream as an extra topping for meals. The concept of children buying frozen desserts at school, while children in Germany face food shortages, has made a profound impression on observers. When prisoners with low security levels were allowed to eat at American restaurants under supervision, they witnessed firsthand the richness of democracy. These small eateries offer menus that, in Germany, would only be available at top restaurants, but are accessible to anyone on a modest budget. Prices recorded since 1944 show hamburgers costing 25x, Coca-Cola 5x, a slice of cake 15x, ice cream 25 cents, and a full meal costing between 65 and 75 cents. Equality in service means anyone can order whatever they want. This contradicts the social class divisions in Germany. At a restaurant, a factory worker and a bank manager might sit next to each other and be served identical meals by the same waitress. At a comparable price, when the prisoners gained access to American publications, they realized that American production figures were far more substantial than those of Germany. In 1944, data on American production showed a stark difference. Sugar production reached approximately 7 million tons, while chocolate and military supplies amounted to 380 million pounds. Coca-Cola sold 5 billion bottles in 1943 alone, and ice cream reached over 500 million gallons, while total milk production reached 119 billion gallons. Meanwhile, German production during the same period was very limited. Sugar is tightly controlled and mainly comes from sugar beets. Chocolate was reserved exclusively for the military and the elite. There were almost no refreshments available. Ice cream was virtually non-existent, while milk was also severely limited. These figures, publicly released in the American media, showed that American wartime production far surpassed even Germany's peaks during its own time. By the end of 1944, German prisoners in America had begun sending food packages back to Germany instead of receiving them. Using their prison paychecks, they bought American products to send home, such as chocolate bars, instant coffee, and canned food. Records from the International Red Cross confirm this. German prisoners in the U.S. sent approximately 11 million packages back to Germany during their incarceration, most of which contained food. The impact of German families receiving sustenance from imprisoned relatives while they faced starvation severely undermined fascist ideology. The rationing regime in America during the war period highlighted the stark differences between the two societies. Americans are concerned about the fact that rationing sugar is only 2 pounds per person per month, 3 times the amount stipulated by Germany when it was available. American meat consumption reached 28 per week per person, far exceeding the amount Germans received each month. Even in the face of rationing, Americans maintained stable consumption levels, what the Germans consider an unimaginable luxury. Records from the Bureau of Price Control show that Americans consumed an average of 74 pounds of gold per person in 1944, 10 times the amount consumed by Germans. Besides Coca-Cola, the prisoners also discovered the American beverage industry, from Pepsi Cola, Dr. Pepper, RC Cola to Orange Crust, and many other regional brands. They all compete nationwide. This diversity, with many companies producing similar products, demonstrates the richness of the market that was impossible under Germany's controlled economy. Bottling plants operate in most major cities. With standardized bottling technology, carbonation, bottle caps, and labels, everything is efficient and effective. The single factories produce millions of bottles annually, and the distribution network delivers the product to every small town, gas station, and grocery store. U.S. soft drink production reached billions of bottles per year by the end of the war, averaging dozens of bottles per American citizen annually. This industry alone has a production output that surpasses that of all of Germany's consumer goods manufacturing sectors combined. By the spring of 1945, when the American army entered Germany, German prisoners in America witnessed footage of American soldiers giving chocolate and chewing gum to German children. The joy of children receiving American candy, something their government couldn't provide, helped to dismantle old ways of thinking. The contrast is stark. American soldiers entered enemy territory and returned with bags full of candy to hand out to everyone. While the German state had promised victory, it led to famine. Footage of the liberation of the concentration camps shows American soldiers sharing food with emaciated survivors, demonstrating humanity towards the victims of the regime that the German soldiers had served. Between 1945 and 1946, former German prisoners of war returned to their devastated homelands. Many of them gained considerable weight while in the hands of the U.S. military. While their families suffered from starvation in the freedom of Germany, they brought knowledge of abundance to a land of scarcity. Medical examinations showed that the majority of returning former prisoners of war were healthier than when they were captured. They returned to families weakened by hardship. The stark contrast between America's abundance and Germany's scarcity is undeniable. Many former prisoners of war brought home their last packages of supplies from the Red Cross. Chocolate candies, coffee, and canned food had become treasures in the family. The children who had forgotten the taste of chocolate were given it by their father. Those who used to eat Hershey candy when they were in prison sent her Hershey candy bars as gifts. Former prisoners of war became unexpected supporters of the Mar Plan. They witnessed that America's wealth came not from a struggle for resources, but from prosperity derived from production rather than conquest. Their testimonies about the Americans' ability to rebuild for their enemies influenced how the Germans received American aid. They understood that America's strength came from its manufacturing capabilities, not from its dominance. They witnessed a society so wealthy that it could squander food even while fighting a global war. This perspective, based on creation rather than conquest, shaped West Germany's economic approach. The German economic miracle of the 1950s was partly built upon knowledge gained in American prisons. Former military conscripts who had witnessed American methods of production, distribution systems, and consumer abundance applied these lessons to the reconstruction of Germany. They learned that mass production could make luxury items more readily available. Standardization has ensured quality and efficiency. Abundance of consumption creates political stability. Industrial democracy can produce better results than authoritarian control. The lessons learned from Coca-Cola and ice cream have shaped generations of German business and political leaders. The transformation of former German soldiers through the abundance of American food is documented in military records, reports from the International Red Cross, company production records, particularly Coca-Cola archives, letters from former soldiers, and post-war memoir interviews, as well as academic studies, including the extensive research of Arnold Kramer. Arnold Kramer, a leading historian of former German prisoners of war in the United States, concluded that food abundance was a key factor in the ideological transformation. His research confirmed that American abundance accomplished what official educational programs could not, completely shattering the myths of Nazi superiority. The statistical summary tells an undeniable story. On average, during the period from 1943 to 1946, the daily calorie intake of the P Army ranged from 3,300 to 3,600 calories. They consumed 4 kilograms of sugar per month, 32 ounces of meat per week, and 1 liter of milk per day. Ice cream is served regularly during the summer, and soft drinks are unlimited at 5 cents a glass. Meanwhile, the average daily calorie intake of Upper Germany during the same period was only 1,200 to 1,500 calories, with 280 grams of sugar per month. 10. Meat is usually not available every week. The milk is strictly regulated, with no cream and no soft drinks. These differences are not just propaganda, but are documented realities. The fact that prisoners of war were provided with better food than even German civilians shows that American prosperity extended not only to the victors, but also to the defeated. The experiences of the P Army with American culinary culture profoundly influenced post-war Germany. Coca-Cola returned to West Germany in 1949, becoming a symbol of the American alliance. Shops mimicking American-style beverage counters have appeared in German cities. Candy bars and chewing gum became symbols of recovery. Many war veterans often become importers of American food products because they understand their appeal from their own experiences. They knew that these products represented more than just taste. They represented abundance, democracy, and modernity. The emergence of supermarkets in Germany in the 1950s was supported by former prisoners of war who had witnessed grocery stores in America. They realized that prosperity in a democracy requires new methods of distribution that go beyond simply increasing production. In numerous post-war interviews and memoirs, former German prisoners of war consistently argued that the abundance of food brought about groundbreaking changes. A former officer of the Afrika Korps once said in a 1975 interview, "We expected to defeat a weak and divided America. Instead, we saw a nation that could hold its own against its enemies. That's when we realized we had lost more than just a war. We had lost our entire worldview." Another veteran, in a 1985 documentary, recalled, "My first Coca-Cola was like drinking into the future. It's sweet, frothy, completely unnecessary, and anyone can buy it for a penny. That drink embodies everything that Germany offers: abundance, democracy, and joy." These testimonies, gathered over decades, confirm that America's food abundance achieved something that military defeat could not bring about: a complete shift in mindset. Those who arrived as the last Nazi soldiers eventually left as witnesses to democratic prosperity. Historians recognize that the P Army's experience in America was a successful re-education through richness, not merely propaganda. This program was successful because it was based on observation rather than direction. The prisoners of war saw American society functioning at its maximum efficiency when treating its enemies with dignity. The food aspect is very important because it is universal. Everyone understands hunger and satisfaction. It's undeniable that weight gain and improved health have been noticeable with 3 meals a day along with items purchased from reputable stores. Those who compared the two soldiers understood the hardships in Germany. Each meal became a lesson in America's industrial capabilities. Each bottle of Coca-Cola is a testament to standardization and the distribution process of the product. Each scoop of ice cream here demonstrates that abundance can be democratic. The children of prisoners of war grew up hearing stories of American wealth in the concentration camps. The stories initially sound unbelievable, but this was validated when West Germany recovered and American goods became more readily available. The myth of American richness born in prison camps has shaped generations of German-American relations. Many of those children later went on to study or work in the United States. Intrigued by their father's stories of seemingly impossible abundance, they discovered that reality was no different from those stories. Supermarkets are stocked with a wide variety of goods. The soft drink counters serve sunny day ice cream, and the candy shelves offer dozens of choices. This impact extended beyond individuals to encompass West German business culture, where lessons were learned about consumer abundance, quality standards, and democratic markets. The economic miracle is not just about production, but also about creating prosperity for ordinary people. Today, McDonald's has over 1,400 restaurants in Germany. Coca-Cola is everywhere, and ice cream has become commonplace. The transition from scarcity to abundance, originating in American prisons, is now complete. But the lessons of history remain powerful. Transformation of mindset through abundance instead of scarcity, kindness instead of cruelty, proof instead of propaganda. Those German prisoners who couldn't believe in ice cream and Coca-Cola in American prisons witnessed the ultimate weapon of democracy, its ability to create such abundance that it could be shared freely with even the enemy. The story of the virtuous prisoners and the abundance of American food represents a very strange historical victory. A war won by generosity, an ideology defeated by ice cream, a worldview shattered by soda. These men experienced change not through punishment, but through abundance. They arrived with the belief in Germany's superiority and America's weaknesses. They left with the understanding that America's strength came from its vast manufacturing capacity, to the point where it could squander resources without worry. A society that could give Coca-Cola prisoners 5 cents would possess power far exceeding military might. The Sunni ice cream sundae, with its rich layers of cream, syrup, whipped cream, nuts, and cherries, has become a metaphor for American abundance. Each component, individually, has far exceeded even the German dream. Taken together, they represent an unimaginable luxury that has become commonplace. The fact that the enemy could impose further burdens while German children faced persecution revealed the complete failure of Nazi Germany. Former prisoners often recall specific moments of apocalyptic events. My first impression when drinking Coca-Cola, the first scoop of ice cream, the first bite of the Hershey chocolate bar. These tactile memories are more powerful than any argument. They have tasted democracy, and it's been a sweet experience. The change is complete and irreversible. The soldiers who had fought for the Third Reich returned as evangelists of wealth, carrying the revolutionary narrative that prosperity comes from doing, not from conquest. They understood that America's secret weapon wasn't military might, but its ability to manipulate its enemies. Ultimately, the bottles of Coca-Cola and plates of ice cream that the American military served at the prison camps achieved what the military could only dream of, completely transforming the hearts and minds of the enemy. Those who could not believe such abundance existed have become the greatest witnesses to this. They brought back to their homeland the truth that democracy tastes like chocolate and freedom fizzes like soda. Their story reminds us that sometimes the greatest victories are not achieved through destruction, but through demonstration, not by taking, but by giving. Not out of hatred, but simply by serving the enemy on a sweltering summer day. Those who experienced the abundance of America as prisoners became unexpected messengers of freedom, forever transformed by the unimaginable reality of Coca-Cola and ice cream in American prisons. Yeah,